So, I guess we all know each other's names, but Dara, and to give a little more, the whole point of this is collaborating, and it's the collaborative Biofuels conference and all these things. And I know that it's something that's been brought up and it's been tried before and all these things, but in getting around and talking to people and just in my own experiences and things like that, I just, I really see the potential for it and I really see the benefits of it. And, it's kind of where I'm at in my whole scheme of things. I really feel like I'll be able to put some energy into it. And, I have a very unique situation with my company in Breckenridge, and I can finally see the light at the end of my tunnel, and it's a model that I feel we can take things from and other people can use, but it probably doesn't make sense for a lot of other people's businesses and things like that. So, it's really neat being able to stand in front of you guys, because I feel like for the past 5 years, 6 years I've been into Greece, I've just been extracting information and kind of, getting things that other people have done and trying to do them myself and things like that. And it's really cool to be up here and potentially be able to offer something to the industry and to everybody. And so I really want to gear this as, please don't judge me by my presentation and my little survey thing. That's not really me. I'm an on-the-ground guy. I don't really mess with this type of stuff. And in my company, I have other people that do these things and make them really nice. And I did this yesterday. So really, I'm gearing it towards I really want to have this be like a workshop. I want to figure this out and find out really what people are thinking and what they want and what people are afraid of and what people don't want and these types of things. So, the less talking I do, I think the better. And really, I just want to be, I kind of want to spark this thing, and, I want to be the person that can help keep the momentum and keep the fire going and maintain it and things like that. But really, it's for us, and I feel like it should basically be by us. And these are just some of the benefits. These are just standard things that anybody gets out of like a trade association, which is basically what we're doing. And the main thing is to just give us this voice, and like what everyone else has been saying and all these things is, we're fighting all these battles as individual companies, and if we come together as a bigger voice and we all stand there as leaders in our communities, and then also have a lot of these co-op members and all the people that we reach out to and touch and really build this pyramid type of thing where, if we're gonna, it could be as small as within our own communities and go as big as national stuff. And, what sparked it for me was realizing recently in Colorado, we had a grease law come through, and it came like right under our noses. I found out through the grapevine, it happened to be the day that the bill was in session. Like, I just happened to be driving by and I saw the Colorado Restaurant Association. I was like, oh, cool. So I just stopped in there. I just wanted to go introduce myself and say, are you here to talk about that grease bill thing? I was like, what are you talking about? And it was that day that it was happening. I'm like,
what was the law?
So they're just regulating transporting, collecting, all that stuff.
And they never had a law before?
No, there was nothing. It was, and the state had no desire. I mean, so so the bill got voted in barely, and the legislators were lobbied, and it was pushed as this environmental bill that moved all this stuff, and everybody that knows anything about anything can totally see that it was totally geared to hurt the small legal operating company. And the legislators and all the people we've spoken to and us, like, we can all just totally see that. Like we got a manifest now, but the generator's left out of the manifest. All these BS things that happen that now we're in the rulemaking process, and we have the state officials saying they're telling us straight to our face, this doesn't make sense, but we got to do our job. This isn't going to do anything. And we understand everything you said, we got to do our job. So, some states have had existing things, but it seems like a lot don't, and I feel like this is something that's going to keep happening. And so, you know, just on the policy, the regulation side of things, I think there's a definite, what's up?
Oh, I see. What did you finish your sentence? I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. You know, I think there's something that we can definitely gain. And then there's like the whole other aspect of it, I think, of helping each other out. And, you know, it seems like we come to these conferences and none of us are afraid to share our information and what we do. And, you know, for some of you guys that have been around a lot longer, there's probably maybe less to gain on that side because you guys are a lot of the pioneers and done a lot of these things. But the newcomers and things like that, I just kind of, you know, I just want to get your guys' opinion on, you know, you think it's a good idea, if it's not a good idea. I mean, I know it would have helped me out. I know a lot of people that it would help out, just like all the people that we know in the country that can't take a weekend off to come to this. You know, there's so many people that are like, oh, I got too much going on, I can't come to this. And, you know, they're owners of their company, doing it for years, and they're still, you know, turning wrenches and doing all these things, which, you know, I feel like there's more value to everyone's experience that they could bring to it, the industry and our communities and society and so on and so forth. So.
My comment is sort of a maybe strange one, but I don't think that regulation in this sector is the enemy. And I say that because we have large oil accounts, but really we've been suffering from 40% theft.
Right.
40%.
Right.
In California.
Right.
Okay. And so we're very heavily regulated. We've been regulated in California for 80 years. Most of that is driven by Baker and Garland, and we do have a very strong presence in California.
Good job.
But the issue for us is that, you know, the good news is that there are a lot of smaller chains and things that Darling and the Bakers of the world, they just get going. They're just, it's not going to make them enough money, or they don't service the account. Maybe when prices are high, they really love those accounts, but when prices are low, they're just sort of casting aside and people get upset. But he goes through this natural transition where at first you resent all of this regulatory sets. And it's difficult because you've gone from nothing to something, which is sort of scary and intimidating.
Right.
For me, just to get personal. And but ultimately, I think that there is some value in having regulation. I don't think the issue is regulatory.
No, and as long as it's done correctly.
Yeah, but the other side is this, that most of the regulations that we see are definitely designed for larger players. I had a conversation with EPA, for example, where we were talking about how you guys define a small producer. How many gallons? Right now, there's a reference to 125,000 gallons, right? In the red, but that's not what they're really using. For small businesses, the federal government is 15,000 folks. So when you get a reg that says, I don't know about GPSs, but we have a regulation in California that's going into effect that made it that every truck we have has to have a GPS on it.
Right.
So it's part of the manifesting thing. Now we're going to have to be able to account for the movements of our trucks, right? To me, actually, that's a good thing. I don't like the expense. I don't like being forced to told that I have to make that expense. But ultimately, I know that that's something actually that is good for my business. And so I just want to make sure that the spirit of this isn't that the regulation is bad, because ultimately you're going to find maybe some value in the strangest piece of regulation.
Right.
But that we have a better power to help influence that.
And that's, I'm not, saying there should be no regulation. It was nice not being regulated.
Yeah,
in the ways, especially where I was. But something that's 1,000 times worse is having regulation that just hurts me and then gives the bigger guys, and it doesn't make any sense. I mean, any intelligent person would read these things that we're making up, and it's like, this doesn't make sense. How can you manifest and leave the generator out? And it's just because they knew that if they, to do that, the restaurant association would be like, we don't want this thing, so.
I've often heard people complain that big companies, big corporations write the policy and then give it to the legislators.
Yes.
And the reason they're the ones who wrote the policy is because they took the initiative to write the policy. there's nothing magical about the big corporation that allows them to write a policy that you can't write.
I disagree.
Well,
Let's let John finish.
it's not magic. The key to take away from themselves is the legislator, your representative, has a lot of other things on her plate. And she doesn't have time to write it. So she's looking for any help she can get. That could be you. If the big corporation gets to her first and they give it, that's the one that goes through. When we found out that our town did not have a comprehensive land use plan, my wife wrote it.
You know, that's totally, I totally believe in that. It's just a matter of opportunity. Who's got the time? They buy lots. They buy lots.
That's exactly,
yeah.
So that was the whole point.
I wish we had more of like a semicircle or circle. Maybe they don't. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like this isn't like you guys. It's really like yeah.
So I feel like the opportunity cost of everyone crafting their own regulation is the kind of thing, maybe writing good policy that small producers want to have would be like a goal.
Well, one of the problems about writing good policy is that like we don't get together very often, and it is. I mean, right now my workplace is split into 2 locations, and doing everything over email and phone is no substitute for person-to-person time. But for stuff as important as this, one thing I would suggest is that, you know, I don't have a lot of time to focus in big chunks. I have little bits of time all the time. And if we had some kind of open source protected with some kind of like, not a non-disclosure clause, but some kind of open source copyright type thing where it's like people can't take ideas that we discuss and go and like try and privatize them and make them their own moneymaker. If we had some kind of forum where we could solve problems like this, where we sign into it, we agree to the open source methodology, that these ideas are shared in a very structured manner, and do stuff like legislative proposal ideas, where we can all kind of start working on it and have drafts, and maybe one of them will be stupid and one of them will be kind of neat, and one of them will emerge that everybody wants to get going, and we can start proposing it in our states, and we'll have like basically templates for stuff. And I mean, stepping away from legislative, you could do that with technology. I mean, there could be kind of a show-off portion of this forum, like, hey, look what we discovered. And it could kind of become the commercial version of Biodiesel InfoPop, which I don't often talk about a lot of the business stuff I'm dealing with at InfoPop because it's homebrewers. And it's like, I don't want to waste their time. And I don't want to be going to the homebrewers all the time with my problems.
Well, there used to be local B100 is.
Yeah.
Got too much.
Well, yeah, it would definitely need a dedicated moderator or moderators. It would definitely need like a dedicated source of money to keep it going and stuff.
And that's, you know, what I'm proposing is, you know, I'm not necessarily saying that like I know what we're going to do. You know, I see it in my personal situation with my business and where I live and stuff. I'm getting like a lot of interns and stuff. Like, really, I put an ad out, I get 150 applicants. I live in a ski town. You know, I have a lot of people coming to my town. I don't really have to go anywhere. People come to me. And I found this resource of people that are motivated and are all about like talking to people and doing this. Now, you know, you got to have experienced, skilled people to put these things together, but a lot of the legwork is just being out there and doing things and finding out who's the right person to talk to in this situation, all these things that none of us have time to do. And I feel like I can facilitate that aspect of it and to really create it so that it is a way to effectively communicate better with each other, take these ideas and create an association. So there's a board of people that, you know, we elect and look at it as there's an easy way for information to come up and there's an easy way for information to go down, and to create our own community. We're all about community. We're all about community. Like we meet once a year, twice a year maybe, and this is our community. And it's yeah, this whole people, this whole everything, and I really feel that with all these minds and the ones that have happened in the past, I feel under the NDB, the SBA, and whoever else is out there, there's like a disconnect of those people weren't really in the trenches. really ever, you know. They're kind of like trying to be the general up there, but they were never down there doing it. And I think with the correct structure, you know, I think I can really put some time and energy into that, to maintain that and to keep it going and to take the ideas and to pull them together so that it goes out. Everybody can kind of look and make their decision on it and then say what they think and not really have to figure out all the stuff, you know. So this is, you know, this is good. This type of thinking.
I mean, it would be so neat if, like, imagine, I don't know what the state-by-state scene is, but if there's another state that doesn't have that kind of regulations yet, it'd be so great if, like, we could each just spend a few minutes and kind of throw in our idea for what the ideal legislation would look like.
Exactly.
And then they could use that.
Exactly.
And
yeah.
Right here.
I mean,
Oregon's like that?
Oregon loves to regulate. And you know, they have landmark land use planning laws, they have the bottle bill, they have a lot of those things. Why they don't have a grease law, I do not know yet. Probably because there's not that much grease for it. But that being said, as we become successful as a group, the Darlings and the Bakers are going to start crafting legislation that's going to make it harder for us to operate and be successful as individuals.
Yeah.
And so I fully believe that within the next, if not this coming legislative session, then the next legislative session, there will be legislation introduced to limit what I can do right now. And right now, I can do any damn thing I please. But
So basically, impose the limits that are going to be the least harmful and most productive to you, and you've got it made, right?
well, there are some things, you know, like theft is a big problem. One way to deal with theft is to be more frequent in how you measure accounts. That's what I know. It does drive your costs up, but so does that. So you've got
people torching your boxes.
Yeah, but I think a lot of the theft is not the companies that's out there. The overall,
Even when it happens,
Oh, I know.
we have like video footage and pages of one of the big state players in our state, and they're the same guys that are shaking hands with the governor and have pictures with the governor.
That's what you need. At least you can hold them. If they created, I caught Baker was still in the weeds. Okay? They did. But it's not because they have great policies. Their policies are their drivers don't take anything. They evangelize this stuff. They can show you hundreds probably of pages of notices, right? But then they get bonuses based on volume. Right. So how do they control the volume they're getting?
Right. And I think none of us in the room, I mean, there's probably a few little things that are borderline, but I don't think any of us have issues with being transparent. You know what I mean? Like, we try to be as transparent as possible and to bring people in and see what we do and how we do and all these things. I feel like we don't have, you know, anything to worry about as far as getting people to, you know, get some light on our situation. Because right now it's what people hear. And, you know, if it's a lot more about what people see, and to make grease cool, you know, in my community, I've made grease cool, you know, and almost, you know, I get it all the time now. You know, I'm wearing my shirt, and someone says, "Oh, you work for Summit Greasecycling?" I'm like, "Yeah, man, I do." And our guys in the kitchens, our guys watch out for us. You know, I've taken this aspect of looking at like, what's the best way to deal with this problem? And I was like, well, how do I get rid of the problem? And a lot of the things with the way I collect and QBs and things like that, and everyone's like, that sounds like the worst idea. And I thought it was the worst idea too. So many benefits have come out of that. And where we can store things. I'm not saying people should do that, but it's just where my way of thinking is gone. And that's what I want to try to bring to a lot of these issues that we all have. It's not how to fight it harder. I mean, it's a freight train. So step to the side. You know, let it run itself off a cliff. And that's kind of what I would like to see happen to a lot of these bigger companies that I feel are unethical and things like that. They have the right policy and words, but what's happening on the ground is let the whole thing be transparent. Let people get curious and be interested, and it'll just show itself. And I think, I mean, I haven't had anybody spit in my face anytime recently, and you know,
you're not doing your job then.
Right? I feel like as an industry, we don't really have to be afraid of getting more public the public looking in. I think it'll only bring us more success, in my opinion. So.
No, in fact, from a transparency perspective, I think that you're probably one of the most transparent commercial shops out there. I have to say that because pull our tech out, we don't have anything that I think is super classified. Charging $1 billion or more. But going back to the original things we were talking about, the idea of regulations and coming up with sort of an approach where for those states that don't have models, hey, it's a way to do it. You can put in a model that looks at, say, what happened in California, what's gone wrong there, what's gone wrong in Texas.
That's just bigger picture though.
Yeah.
That's really difficult to think we're really gonna get that legislative piece. Just the more mundane housekeeping things are probably even more important in my opinion. Just getting together on a regular basis and being able to share ideas and things like that. Having quarterly conference calls and an email list, and I want to know what lids you're putting on your drums and where you're sourcing your barrel deheaders.
And that's a lot of it too, is
just mind share of things that as grease recyclers. I want to get your marketing materials and, you know, let's go to the same common software platform.
Yes,
The one that we
completely.
have, or Luke back there can work with us in open source software. I mean, whatever, let's get on some common platforms and collaborate.
Yeah, be able to write reviews for stuff. I mean, we've been looking for software right now. I've checked out yours. I mean, we're looking at a lot of stuff. And it's just like, the rendering industry is so secretive that if you're not in the rendering industry, you're not going to see what the rendering industry is doing.
Yeah.
And it really hurts us when we're crossing a lot of that same territory.
Also, most of them have the ability to make custom apps. So a lot of them are running their own custom apps and being creative. That's their.
My biggest sense is that we're all reinventing this wheel. So we all get together once in a while, we share ideas, and then we go back, and then we're back into our boats. And you know, we all got these, we're all in our own boat, and we just need to all get in the same boat, and or at least, you know, pull them all together, and you know, we'll be able to survive storms better.
We've been saying it for years. You know,
Yeah.
starting in 2008, you know, we got together, and then 2009, and then 2009 CBC, and then 2009 SBS. And then we had a couple of conference calls, and it fills us out because there's no name in the organization, there's no leadership in the organization, and there's no workflow in the organization.
Right.
So there's no staff, even though
Yeah.
it's just a name.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
that's really the missing ingredient, and I really appreciate you coming up with the idea for the session, and that's the steps that have to be in place, I think, to get it somewhere.
And if, you know, I mean, this is the type of stuff I was looking for, is like, what do we need?
We need a name for the organization, we need money. I mean, I certainly contribute $100, $200, $500 a year.
And I was looking at different, structures for that, and figured it'd be, you know, like.
But I would like to see a clear place. We have a lot of organizations. We've got not just NBB, we've got SBA, we've got CBC in California, we've got all these organizations. I'm sure there are a ton. And
Maybe
Yeah,
start
I
with
wanna-
certain
I think Lyle has-
future,
Also, and they're all worthless, to finish your sentence, right?
Yeah.
So the other thing is I belong to the National Biodiesel Board and the North Carolina Biodiesel Producers Association and the Sustainable Biodiesel Alliance and the Roundtable for Sustainable Biofuels and, you know, we do the Sustainable Biodiesel Summit, which we always used to have sort of wrap-up sessions like this, right? It's like, oh gosh, we wish we had an organization. So for years,
Every year.
we had an organization. Okay, and then finally the SBA was created, and we kind of did have an organization. And I guess we used to do roundtable or conference calls and so on. At the time, we were begging for a label, some sort of standard, so that we could say our fuel is more sustainable than their fuel. And I don't forget who quit first. Gilmar, did you quit first or did I quit first? And it was mind-numbingly bad from a leadership perspective. Finally, we have a label that's come out. I haven't seen any noise or media about this label. Does anyone even know that the SBA has a label out? I know that I can't say to someone, hey, you got your biodiesel at the Shell station and that's different from mine, because no one understands or cares. So I would say that it's all worthless so far. It's been our track record. Now, I also agree that there'd be value in all of this, right? I've got a used pumper truck for sale, and you've got a better deheading method than I do, and he's got a cool new lid that locks, and you know, there's no question we can benefit from it, but we haven't so far.
I think it's a question of focus and leadership. I think that we would need to make sure that it's not all falling on one person's shoulders as much as you want to bear a lot of weight right now, perhaps.
Bring it.
Yeah, I think we need to have some way of all sharing the leadership and you know, basically empowering the collective in how it's run, which is why I kind of gravitated toward a forum idea that any structure you choose needs some kind of leadership structure at the head of it. And then also, I think the focus has to be not something like in the case of the SBA, I mean, sustainability, it's like you start to get a narrow focus and people stop paying attention because they've got all these things distracting them. If the focus is sharing ideas to make us all better and helping each other solve problems, then it goes way beyond that, and it's like you can't risk ignoring it because you need this.
Right.
And I think if we can solve those problems of empowering people to be, you know, leading with it and also keeping the focus on helping each other, then it wouldn't be like that. Because Lyle, I know that when I dropped out of that discussion, it was because I had a million things going on that I needed to solve. If the discussion had been about, hey, let's help Kumar solve his problems, you know, I would not have dropped off of that.
I want to just call on Sarah and John and say it seems like a free-for-all, so raising your hand is probably not effective. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, but well, I was going to say in the interest of creating a forum, I think that online is probably the obvious place to go, just because even if you have dial-up, you can still get on a message board, that sort of thing. And something that I've seen that sounds like kind of what you're aiming for is, and I can't remember the name of the site, but it's basically a forum for documentary filmmakers. So it's this kind of niche thing where there's a lot of specialized knowledge that people want to share with each other in a semi-private, you know, often they'll talk about projects they have going on that they don't really want every single person in the world to know about. And they have a few people who run it, one person started it. I know there are many others now who help run it. But they have kind of a vetting process. They have some discussion forums that are public and open to anybody, and then a whole raft of other ones that are not open and you can't find them online. You have to be a member. And that might be a really good model. But then they'll have stuff like there's a discussion about, you know, what camera do you use? There's another about how do you get funding? There's, you know, all these things where people can share, you know, different ways they've done things or things they've heard about, different websites, whatever resources.
It's just important to make sure that things stay protected.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jeremy started something like that for the co-op.
Sweet.
And
Do you know what it's called?
No.
me and Aaron, when we were in North Carolina, Aaron, I forgot his dad's name, we started Pacific Biodiesel.
Oh, Aaron King, yeah.
Yeah. So he put something together, and it's called Small Oil. And we made a forum, and you know, it wasn't the right time. So I said, hey, okay, it's a good idea, whatever, but let's not try to do a whole bunch of stuff without
Well, if
talking.
there's a bunch of little ones, it's not going to help
Yeah.
the larger community, but if there's, you know, one or two, maybe, I don't know.
Well, it's
that
like
people know about that they can share around.
it's like anything. It's like these types of things, especially with so many people and things. It's hard to start doing it. I feel like once it happens, like you said, where I can't not check what's going on because I'm going to miss something, you know. And it's hard to get that momentum going. And that's, you know, I'd like to come up with some creative strategies to try to really start implementing this thing into a way where then it really builds up and then really meaty things are getting really taken care of. But so everybody can gain the trust, and you know, it's not like we're gonna sit here and then, oh, okay, we got a forum made, so now boom, all of our problems are solved. It's like it just needs to start with things that don't necessarily involve exactly what we're trying to do right now, but to get the kinks worked out, to get it as, you know, as a common practice for us to be using it to develop it so that when we get to the real serious issues that we want to talk about, that we all need to figure out, it's not like, oh, we're trying this, but this isn't working, and that's not working. You know, now they found out everything and all this stuff, and you know, that's something that you know, I'm saying on my end, I think I can really, you know, not just, you know, throw the match onto the pile of wood, but to really be there to keep it, you know, going. Because like anything, last time you get this big and then it dies down, and if no one's there, then it goes out. You know, so to stay there and to keep it going and to keep it moving along and to keep adding more onto it. So
I think organizing something like that, setting up, is fairly straightforward with the tools that are out there, and it's not that expensive to operate a website for a forum like that. The big issue, and that someone said earlier, is that it has to be moderated.
Yeah.
Because I've had experience over and over again with public forums that are open and unmoderated, just degenerating into shouting fest or whatever, a bunch of arguments. Some people just enjoy flaming on the internet, and that has to be avoided unless it's to be effective. Because if it isn't avoided, then people go away and they have they don't want to be there.
Yeah.
They won't come back.
And
it's
this
not worth it.
won't be something that anybody can just go click and be on, and eventually this is working towards a real association type thing where there's a structure of it goes from an individual user to like a sponsor type person, but different people have different access to different things, and that way.
And even that might be a little overly complicated.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just simple
Just
membership.
what it is.
And like when you're a member of the National Rendering Association, which I'm not, if you buy Render magazine, which is a magazine in the rendering industry, you're a member, and it's like $5,000 a year or something. It's really high. You could be potentially a member of, what we talked about in years past, of the Biofuels Association,
Right.
whatever name we came up
Yeah,
with.
yeah.
If we wanted to have such an association, where what we had talked about, the goal would be to find companies whose sole purpose of existence was to collect grease for 100% to go into biofuels. And those are the only companies that could join the organization, and that would be vetted, that's what they do. And then those companies could join for whatever fee was to sustain the organization.
And so that's, so I think that it has to be, like, everyone has to be a member to be able to post. I think that avoids some of the moderation requirements because.
I think that even that's getting too specific, we're talking about posting and it's gonna be a forum and all this, it's just the fact that there even is an organization, that's a high level enough.
Yeah, I think just to be able to log in or to participate, everyone would have to pay a fee because otherwise how is this gonna work? And I think we have about 10 more minutes left, so I just want to start getting people to go around and make some solid commitments because I think the technology is not the stumbling block, it's the buy-in. Like no one visits the forum.
Well,
Does it even exist?
Well, the forum is,
Or
to
what would
me,
you-
such a small aspect.
So
of
what
it.
do you guys think are the
know?
main things that have to happen?
Well, you have to have.
It's got to do something, like what Lyle's saying, like it's got to do something on the ground. And I think things like having that sticker that the restaurant puts on their window, or having a sales packet that puts all this stuff that's out there that we're not all the type of people that go and talk shit about other companies. We try to just prove ourselves as being better and better and better, but most people don't see that.
Well,
maybe there's a way to
what
put.
you do with the oil. Number one, you say that 100% of our oil goes into renewable energy where possible. I mean, you might have a caveat there that potentially my plant's down after the oil has to go somewhere. So you might not necessarily say it like that, but what are you doing with your oil? Who are you as a company? And, you might, what's your mission statement, and does your mission statement fit with the goals of the organization? Just keep it real high level at first to see if the organization makes sense to even exist, which I think it does.
The whole purpose of an organization like this, just from what I'm seeing here, is so if you find something that works, you share it with the people. And if you have a problem that you're struggling with, you throw it out there to see if you can get some ideas to generate. The purpose isn't to go in a particular direction. The purpose is to help everybody who has their own direction to go those directions more efficiently, to utilize the knowledge that already exists in your brain trust that we're not sharing.
And I think it'll evolve into these types of.
So what we talk about is organizing in some way to share that. Lyle's got some experience with attempts at that. So that experience should be useful to help us avoid the pitfalls.
How open source is Biofuels?
Pretty good. We were right up until Enzymatic when we started filing patents every time we turned around. But like 8 years of real open source to so no, so we're good, and I'm good on this. So it's not like we have information that we wouldn't share. So like if Kumar or any of you were to ping me with a question about oil collections, then I could answer it. Chances are I'd just answer it.
And it doesn't even have to be like this thing where everybody sees it. You can just call.
Well,
You put a phone number where everybody can see it.
Except
True, but
you
in the
still
beginning,
answer
like
that
I'm
10
saying, in the
times.
beginning, to
You
get
answer the
going,
point.
to find out how to structure this so that we're not putting ourselves at risk, because
Well,
I
then
don't know
the
anything about
other thing is,
hacking and
you know,
stuff.
if you have a question that you want to keep private, then on the public board you say, hey, can I get your email address and I have a question that I'd like to ask you. And, you know, and then you take the actual discussion offline.
Part of the co-op group, I think he started a Google group that we're supposed to check in with all the time and see, you know, what job needs to be done. But yeah, I'm illiterate, so I don't check into that, and it doesn't correspond with you. But I think something like that would be pretty easy to have it send out a notice. Or since we're running out of time, maybe just start a Facebook page so that you guys can all communicate and figure out what the next step is going to be.
I'm even thinking of making like a community toolbox type of thing. Like, you know, it's not like we all have to go buy a lawnmower if we're all on the street. One guy can have a lawnmower, he's only need it once a week. You know, there's certain things that we've come up with that aren't secrets and aren't things that, yeah, right off the bat we could probably use, like a supplier of this or a supplier of that, or, yeah, I mean.
Does anybody know a model like what we're describing here? Anybody, something in some other industry?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
So
This is exactly what we're talking about here.
I worked for a Silicon Valley startup. We built basically enterprise collaboration tools so that people can collaborate like they do on the public internet, but they can collaborate in private communities. To me, that sounds kind of like what you guys want. Now, the challenge with uptake in those things is that typically there's two kinds of activities. There's what they call in-the-flow activities. This is like going about getting your job done. If you can integrate those in-the-flow activities into this online tool, you'll be successful. Then there's above-the-flow activities where it's like, I'm going to take half an hour out of my day to document or to write up what I've done today and kind of talk about it. And that's more like what you use with Wikipedia, where you're kind of like stepping outside the regular process. If that's the use case that you go for, you probably won't be successful because you're all so busy that you won't actually take that time out of your day. So to me, the challenge would be, can you guys find a way where in the flow, like something you do every week is like you maybe check in and you talk about things, and that's the catalyst for you to start asking questions or answering questions or do something like that. But I think in terms of having a private community, that there's quite a few tools that can already do that. But that's really what you want. And then whether you have a formal organizational structure around it, maybe you can figure that out down the road. But you guys essentially want a private place to collaborate. We want a private place to collaborate with trusted people. Or if someone's an asshole, you can kick them out.
I will actually add to that. What Dan was describing was I just made a quick Google site for that, for the co-op. And similar, there are all kinds of tools that I've used to set up companies that are, to a certain extent, requiring folks to log in and do this. This has to be so compelling that it encourages logging in. And so, as you said, in-the-flow activities are something that can then be tagged and then referenced later, which then you can start building that documentation from. And wiki sites and so forth can be built out of the inflow activity. The discussion actually can continue in the next hour because that's what Maureen and I are going to encourage people to do, is do exactly this type of thing. So I will also say you don't have to get every word out because you're going to be doing this more. And I think I'm going to have Dara actually leading the oil collection side of that. And I may grab a couple of others. Lyle and I think actually Luke would be involved in some of the tool building pieces as well, potentially. So
I have maybe one other idea just to make it kind of engaging, is that there may be a way for for this group to kind of make it almost like a game.
Yes.
And I use that word loosely, but to involve
really good stuff.
social game kind of concepts into your group, so that maybe that in the flow activity of reporting into the group is like, how many barrels of oil did you pick up? And so it's not like a really important metric, like it's not going to make you a better person in life, but you know, it's kind of like a game thing where that you can kind of like work and, you know, compete in a kind of a friendly way against other people. Something to think about. I don't know if that's a solid example, but
That grin is scary.
I just wanted to relate this little story about that. So Red Hat had wanted to expand open source beyond computing, and so they opened up a website called opensource.com, and they asked various people to write pieces, and I wrote a piece called Open Biodiesel, and they published it on opensource.com. And of course I had a login, I went in, there was this new thing, and I went away again, you know, didn't go back for 8 months, you know, after the comments sort of ran out. And I don't know, 8 or 9 months later, someone else published a piece in opensource.com, and they sent it to me, and I read it, and I sent them an email saying, you know, wow, interesting, I gave them my reflections. I said, hey, could you go back and post that as a comment for me, please? So I went and had to get a new login, what's my password, I forget, blah, blah, blah. I went in, and they had a brand new scheme there, and they said, the author of this article is Rockstar. You know, and oh look, here's a comment from Lyle. Lyle is a newbie. And suddenly I'm like, well, wait a minute, I was one of the founding writers of this thing, why would I be a newbie? You drill into their point system, and sure enough, it's like, well, the point system's all new, so anything you did before now doesn't count. So it's just from here on. And so I think it's really motivational, and you say make a game of it. It's like, if I found out that, you know, Kumar had more points than me, I could probably find more time in my day to write something. So I think it's true that if you make it like a game, and you
like Farm Bill,
give out the
for
badge, right? Little badges, Boy Scouts, make it like that.
It's like a good karma points.
Yes.
Yeah, you can.
And
we
should honor Lyle, and I would propose Open Biodiesel is a great name for this project.
but it's not open.
It's not open.
Well, it is.
Please log in.
It is open biodiesel. I mean, it's open among the folks who it's relevant to.
It's open Pandora's box.
It could be like the fine print in the pharmaceutical, you know, it's open biodiesel. That's going to be for Greasecycling.
It could be open, but there are just some things that it should not. I mean, that make it more complex.
Open to the group.
But
Yeah, open to the exactly.
Can we
Sam?
just jump back quickly to a collection issue? Has anyone here done some research and study into the end use of rendering companies or their products? Like, I've done a limited amount of that, but not to say, like you said, we don't want to go around bad mouthing other companies, but I have said to restaurants before, would you rather oil go to local biofuel, green fuel, or would you like it to go to your cats?
Food in China.
Give them cats
Yeah, I
or-
say that all the time.
The local, but I know the biggest rendering company in BC is in Vancouver, it's called Westwood Production, and they've had a monopoly for so many years, and now they're losing it. On their site, besides talking about livestock production, then they just go with the generalities of white grease, brown grease.
Oh, they haven't started their own green division?
Well, they did. They tried to delve into biodiesel, and we actually bought some of their equipment recently.
Oh, really? Oh,
because they went under the cascade.
The biggest advantage you have is being local and being small.
And being a green.
Which, well, yeah,
There's a lot of
but that's not
restaurants,
the biggest. Being local and being small is bigger than being.
Well, because some restaurants couldn't care less about green.
I think though a force that, because we all run into the same problems, I think being a part of a larger force, and all of a sudden we can't just get, you know, the rug pulled out from under us, big thumbs coming and just squishing us as easily, which is what I've seen, and I've seen that happen to, you know, or heard of that happening a lot, and, you know, I'd be, you know, really interested to see, like, who wants to take, you know, I mean, I'm saying I'll do a lot of the bitch work. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying I'm going to do.
Right, we could work together on a campaign,
We
like
could-
Pacific has restaurants for renewable, or
Things like that,
biofuel,
campaigns
you guys
that-
have, you guys
yeah.
partners and sustainable partners. If we could come together on something, you know.
We have sustainable partners.
You know, I'll tell you one first thing, if our group is together is we probably as a group, or one person needs to join the renter association, because the old saying, you should really keep your enemies real close to you.
Yes.
And that publication probably talks about all their environmental legislation things that they want to work towards.
And that's a big thing, is to have somebody that's just reconning what's happening.
Right. And
being
that's
out
probably
there
happening in
and
this group
seeing
too. At some point,
what's
they're
going on.
probably getting in this group.
Yeah.
Well, that's, I mean, and that's right, and that's why you want to keep it closed, or is the concern that you're going to end up ripping the rug out from under yourself if somebody who's in your local market, I think we're all geographically pretty diffused.
I'm a member of a group called Visited, which is a bunch of sort of, it's my executive committee, so I don't really have a board that is very active. So we have a rule, they have a bunch of different, what they call pods, but the rule is that you don't have a near competitor in the same pod. So you can have all your competitors can participate, but you're not sort of in the same assigned pool of folks that you're working with in a meaningful fashion. It's between 10 and 15 folks that you're working with, talking about all your business problems and your ROI and that. You're not worried about having your immediate competitor. It's co-opetition for you, but your immediate competitor is not going to know what's going on so much. And so I think that might be a useful model to be adopted too, in a case where you're going to have people from the same region, they're not 40 miles, so this 50 miles away.
Yeah, so I think now would be the time to get some names on this paper of people that are willing to, like, it seems like people are interested and who's going to actually be able to work with Dara on this in the last couple of minutes.
Sign me up.
We'll see who leaves first this time. Hopefully neither one of us.
Is that a yes?
I'd love to be a part of it.
Yeah, well, that's,
Al.
I want to
Al?
try to find the right way to make it so it requires the least amount of time for people.
We work Biofuels. I'm out down in New Orleans.
This or that.
I came to your facility probably 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay. So what about doing like, do you guys like start with phone calls, or what do you guys want to,
Why don't,
Justin?
why don't we
Can you
continue
do
it
smaller?
Yeah, yeah.
session?
So we're taking a little
Couple minutes, he's
We can
he's
do
got to
that.
clean up on
We can
the
do that and just start
Biodiesel
using
demonstration
something.
anyway.
That'll probably be
So we're
good,
going to be a
so.
few minutes behind, and then we're going to end up probably bleeding into the break, and I hope you all want to do that.
Yeah, that's totally
So take a few minutes and then back in the main room.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, good. So you're going to throw something together and get it out there?
Yeah.
Everything?
Well,
We're trying to register our
Never tried it? I'm not sure it works exactly.
collectors. Our provided 4 tiers.
Oh, we got